Oh, yes, Mr. Client, I really do understand. I know the prices are really high. Yeah, we've really been working hard to get you something, and unfortunately, people do have a lot of cash out there, and that is, sometimes making it harder for you to buy. Well, as you and I have talked about, there is no indication that we're going to see a wave of foreclosures. There simply isn't any data that supports that right now. Yes, I understand. Oh, hey, sorry. Just was talking to yet another client who was explaining to me that they weren't going to stay in the market anymore because they're waiting for a wave of foreclosures to hit. This is really a tough market. I get it. If you're trying to buy a house right now, it is challenging. This poor client, they have lost 3 offers. People are coming in with cash. People are making these crazy offers where they're waiving inspections or they're offering over ask. And I know it's really hard. So is it a valid strategy to say you're going to park what you have on the sidelines, and when the foreclosure wave hits, you're going to start buying it then? I'm SandiWarner with Warner Realty Group. Let's take a look at that idea. As you know, we've been tracking the forbearance market, and forbearance is a strategy the federal government came up with after the crash in 2007 that allowed people to kind of park their mortgage or do workouts or do other things with their mortgage so they didn't lose their homes. The big problem we had in 2007 is we had so much new construction. We had these crazy loans, like people could get a loan. What were they called? No doc loans. So if you went in, say you were like me in 2007, you're a bartender at a beach bar in Fort Lauderdale, and you go to the bank and you say, yeah, I make $150,000 a year. Do you know they didn't check? They did not look at your tax returns. They did not make sure that you actually made this money. They just gave you the loan. This was happening all over the country in 2007, 2006, 2008. And at the same time, so much construction was happening that we had all this new inventory coming. So what happened was inventory started to outpace buyers. When inventory is higher than buyers, what happens is you get a decrease in demand. So a buyer goes out there and they have 2 or 3 homes to pick from, right? So they can really negotiate with that seller. Fast forward. Here we are in 2022. Yes, it's 2022. I can't believe it. We have something like year 10 of an inventory problem of really being a seller's market. And over the last 2 or 3 years, it's been a strong seller's market. I think this is everywhere in the country. I don't know any agents that I'm talking to, and I do belong to several national organizations. I have yet to talk to an agent who's not experiencing this. So let's think about that. If inventory is super low and demand is super high, we have our normal housing demand, which isn't being met. We have a huge generation. We have generation millennials, the millennials coming into age and buying houses. We have super cheap interest. In 2007, 2006, interest rates were at 5, 6, and 7%. So it was more expensive to borrow at that time. We have this little trifecta of events happening, and that's driving rates up. Because housing is so hard to find, and because people are willing to pay so much for a property, what's happening is you're seeing the value of properties go sky high. So all of those things together mean we're not going to see a wave of foreclosures. So let's look at the data. What is forbearance? Forbearance is the federal government realized as we went into COVID or after coming out of COVID, and I think that was done with the Consumer Financial Protection Board, that they realized, it didn't make any sense that people couldn't kind of work through these mortgages. So they came up with this idea of forbearance. And forbearance means you can park your mortgage, you can do a workout, you might be able to take, like if you're going to miss a month's payment, you could tack it on at the end of your mortgage, all of these different things. And the idea was that it wouldn't be an all or nothing. You could make an agreement with your bank that would prevent you from having to just go into foreclosure. So if we look at the data, this is from Black Knight. This is showing that forbearances finally went below 1 million. Now, this is just the forbearances that were on record in May of 2020. So in May of 2020, the federal government comes out and says, oh my God, all these people are out of work, but it's from a societal standpoint, it doesn't make sense to throw everybody out. We don't have enough housing anyway. So they're going to let everybody go into forbearance. Anybody that wanted to go into forbearance could. You just clicked a button. So we saw those numbers up at 4.76. And this is where a lot of people got the idea we were going to have a wave of foreclosures, right? So people were remembering, were thinking back to 2007 and the big housing crash and saying, oh my God, look at all these people. Nobody's ever going to make a payment again. And the next thing you know, they're all going to be in foreclosures. Well, if you look at December, here's December of 2021. We are all the way down to 0.89, I think it is. This is 0.89 million. So that is not a lot of people in forbearance. So let's take a look at what happened. Here is a great slide that talks about how people handled this forbearance. So they were given this break from paying their mortgage. What did they do? Well, in the course of the last 2 years, 38.6 paid those mortgages in full. So maybe they were smart and they remembered the housing crisis. They went, oh my God, I don't want to have a late payment on my record. I don't want to screw this up. I don't know if I'm going to keep my job. So they clicked the button, right? And then they realized they don't need their forbearance. 19.9% of those people paid their payments on time right through their forbearance period. 6.9% of those people actually paid their loan off. And 11.8% of them brought past payments current. 38.6%, that's awesome. Great job, America. Now, 44% were workouts or repayment plans. And a workout could be, you take 2 payments and you tack them on the end of your loan, or maybe you work out a different payment structure or whatever. But you and your bank are working together with the joint goal of keeping you in your house and getting the mortgage paid. Remember, the bank really doesn't want you to get foreclosed on. Costs them money, as much as we all like to think big banks are out to get us. And in December of 2021, 17.4% were still in trouble. So 16.8% of those had no loss mitigation plan, and 0.6% were short sales or deeds in lieu. So this 16.8 we want to really keep an eye on, but given what everyone else has done, it's likely that many of those are going to pull it out as well. Finally, we can see, this is a quote from McClare Bolton Smith, who is a research leader at CoreLogic. CoreLogic runs, they're a software company for real estate agents. And they say, we may see a little bit of an uptick in foreclosures in 2022, but just an uptick from an extraordinarily low level. We're not expecting to see a big increase. We expect delinquency rates overall on home mortgages to actually remain quite low. So bear that in mind. We're not expecting people to fall behind, and couple that with the fact that everyone has equity in their home. An infinitesimal amount of people will not have equity in their home, because we saw even here in Rhode Island, in say, for example, the one that stood out in my head was in Newport, had a 38% increase in equity in 2012. So what does that mean? That means, say they bought their home for $200,000 or $500,000 or $1 million. Say they bought their home for $1 million 5 years ago and they fell behind on their payments. They could sell that home now for $1.3 million. That's more than enough equity to pay off the loan, pay their realtor, and even probably walk away with some money. So people don't foreclose if they can make enough money to pay off the loan, right? That's what's happening there. I'm Sandi Warner with Warner Realty Group, making the complex simple.